let me first talk about the schedule now. So I just posted the next milestone. It's the entity relationship diagram. So the next milestone is pretty simple. It's just actually focused on the entity relationship diagram. I actually posted an example. I hope you have seen this example using the Visio. Personally, I think Visio is okay to create the data flow diagram, also the entity relationship diagram. So I just posted the next milestone over here, and also there's no actually need to do the presentation, just submit your work. So at the end of today's class, I will leave some time for each team to discuss your next project. So hopefully I can provide time for you. Today I want to actually move forward and talk about the next phase. Okay, so we have a phase 1 planning phase and phase 2 analysis, and then we have a design phase, and then the next one's implementation. So let me start with this. So we start with module 7, moving into the design phase. So in the design phase, so we need to figure out how we're gonna actually, make it happen for the system. So in the previous 2 phases, we created the data flow diagrams, and we also created the entity relationship diagram. So these 2 diagrams basically try to, explain the system from 2 different perspectives. One from the process perspective, the other one is from the data store perspective. Okay, so but none of the diagrams basically provide the actual way to implement it. We haven't mentioned anything about the hardware, the software, which hardware we're going to actually acquire, which software we're going to purchase. We never mentioned anything like this. We just purely talk about the requirements, what need to be done. So what's the requirement? So we just simply list all the requirements, and then we list all the data we need to store and how the process going to work. So that's all actually matters in the analysis phase. Now, during the design phase, we need to figure out how we're going to actually implement the system. Not implement the system, how we're going to actually achieve the goal, and what kind of approach we need to use. Okay. So first we're going to talk about the initial transition from analysis phase to design phase, and then we actually create something called a system specification. That's a deliverables for the design phase. So then we're going to talk about 3 different approaches, okay, to acquire a system. The first approach is, in-house. It's custom build, or we call the in-house development. And the other approach is called a packaged approach. So if there's any package that they're already in the market, then we can approach this. And then there's an outsourced alternatives. So it's called outsourcing. Okay, so we can actually using one of the technique called alternative matrix. We're going to draw the matrix so to select which approach we're going to use. Okay. So from requirements to design. So basically, in the system analysis, in the second phase, we basically try to figure out what the business needs. So we normally describe the business in terms using the English language. We don't use any kind of technical terms. We never used, language like any computer programming language to describe what we're going to do. Just to use the just a general, English language to describe this business needs, because the reader for these analysis phase are not the IT people, not just the IT people. You're going to include some of the, business people like management, executives, customers. So they probably don't know anything about the system. So they just want to describe what they need. Okay. So now in the design phase, now we're going to focus on the technical side. So we're going to actually figure out how to build the system that fulfills these needs. So as a system analyst, so you're not going to deal with the customers, business people. You're now going to deal with the software developer, programmer, and so people working in the system. Okay. So this basically says, in the analysis phase, all the works we have done so far are the logical work. So it's basically just purely talk about what we need, without touching any the physical thing. So basically from system analysis to system design, it's just basically, so all the actual logical work for system analysis is converted into the physical work. So which system we're actually going to purchase, and what kind of server, which particular server we're going to purchase, which particular software brand we're going to acquire. So we can actually discuss things like this. Okay. So in the design phase, we decide how to build a system and create the system requirements. Okay. So the system requirements basically describe the system using all the technical details for building the system. Okay. Now the system requirements eventually going to be, sent to the software developer. So they're going to follow the system requirements and build the system. Okay. So at the end of the, design phase, we can actually, provide the final deliverable. It's called a system specification or spec. So we're going to convey exactly what the system development team will implement during the implementation phase. So that's part of the reason why system analyst's job is it's a very important job, because you actually need to deal with non-technical people. You also need to deal with the technical people. You basically play as the liaisons between, these two different worlds. One side are the customers and all the actual management, So unfortunately, they have the authority to approve the money to invest in the system. So even though they don't know the system, but they have the power. And also the customer, also they have the power to say anything they want. So they can, customers are always the king, right? So they, whatever they say, you try everything you can to make them happy. So you actually collecting feedback from the customer, from the, and then you try to persuade the business people, persuade the management to support the project. And then once you got the support, you design a system, and then you actually create something called a system spec to the programming, and then just tell them, which part you need to actually develop, and which actual software you need to develop to make the things happen. So you basically actually cross these two worlds, So basically, one side is business needs, and then you convert into the system spec. Okay. System spec, you can basically use the technical term, the language that the software engineer can understand. Okay, so in the design phase, you actually have couple of different options. Okay, so as we say that we have 3 different options. One is in-house development, and we call this make, or packaged approach. And you can purchase any software package or any kind of a system, the package which is already in the market to perform the job. You can buy a package for the whole system, or you can buy a package and embed it into your system as a part of your system. So, for example, in your system, you may need to perform the accounting job. So then you can say, okay, in the marketing part, I can develop the code by our own. So we can hire a software engineer, and we can write the software. We can write the Java code or Python or any computer software to create the software, to create a website. So we can actually do this. But for the accounting part, we can just actually shop on the existing market to any kind of software package we can get. And then we can embed the accounting system into our system. So that's a packaged approach. Or we can use the outsourcing. So we don't have people to do this job. We don't have, and also it's not worthwhile to hire people to do this, to implement the system. And then after the project is done, we don't have any job for them. So we don't want to do this. If it's like a temporary, it's just one project, just require people to develop the software, and for like a year, just a year contract. So in that case, you're probably gonna try to find some consulting company or some actually contract, and you sign a contract with these people, and you basically give these people your system spec, and this is what we want. Can you actually make it happen? So you can actually sign a contract with the consulting company. So that's the outsourcing approach. So these are 3 approaches: in-house, packaging, and outsourcing. And we also call this make, buy, or outsourcing decision. 3 different decisions. And we're also going to determine the technical architecture for the system. Typically, in a modern system, we probably need a system like a client server, and also connected through the internet, right? So you need to actually have the overall picture of what the system going to look like. It's unlikely the system going to be like a isolated, standalone system. That's the past. We don't develop a software just for and install on a PC so people work on a PC. The chances are in modern days, we're most likely going to develop a system which is actually the, part of the, network system, so distributed system. So we need to actually determine the technical architecture. And also, something else we need to consider is the security concerns. once we develop the system, like in the in the server client system. So now what the security concern, what kind of security concerns we have? The chances are sometimes maybe you can hire people to develop the system, but for security, you probably need to hire some consultant to give you some kind of advice. And if we have to actually end up buying some kind of software to protect your system, then you have to do this. Or the other approach is that you can develop a system, and to increase the reliability, you have to actually develop a backup system to make sure in case some kind of disaster happens, then your system is still going to be able to work. Make hardware software selections. Determine the way that the users will interact with the system. Okay, so you can actually, design these interfaces, inputs, outputs. Most of these parts are called actually GUI, graphical user interface. Okay. Now in the past, people have the other option. It's called actually command-based, command line based. Okay. Now in a modern system, it's unlikely that you will ask your customer to, deal with the system through the command line, interface, because if you want to achieve anything, you want to provide some kind of easy access. You provide input, some kind of create some kind of app on the cell phone, so people can actually just input the data and access the system from your cell phone, iPad, or tablet. So you don't want actually people, just go into the PC and log in and just type the command to perform some kind of job. Now, though this command line interface is still widely used, okay, command line interface, they're still widely used by system administrator. So people who actually support the system, support the server, maintain the system, so they can still remote log into the server and perform the task using the command line interface. That's still actually widely used. But your system towards the customer, most likely you should provide some kind of fancy interface. So, and some kind of interface that make the customer easier to access and use. Okay, so that's the interface. And also you're going to design the program for the underlying processes. Okay, that's the design the way data will be stored. Okay, so this way you're going to figure out, do we need a database? Okay, if we need, what kind of database we need? Are we going to use the Oracle database, or like we use the cloud-based, storage? So some type of things like this. Okay, so now the modern technology actually gave us a lot of different selections. In the past, like 10 years ago, when we talk about designing a new system, I think the only option we may have is what kind of database we want to purchase. Do we want to implement the Oracle database, or SQL, the open source type of database, or we just simply use Microsoft Access? So now the option could be, can we outsource this job to other company? So we don't actually purchase any physical server to store the data. We can actually sign a contract with Google, and we use cloud-based, storage. So then we don't have to actually hire people to maintain the system. All we need to do is, how can we securely, store our data into these cloud storage? Okay, so we actually have a lot of different chances with different actually approaches. Okay, and then we're gonna actually, once we actually studied all this, we're gonna create our final deliverables, the system specification. So that's the final document Okay, that's the final document for the design phase. Okay. Now here's the items you need to include in the system spec. Okay. So number one, we need to recommend the management about the system acquisition strategy. Okay. So then we need to actually provide the system acquisition weighted alternative matrix and tell the management how you actually made the decision. Okay. And also the architecture design. You know, when we actually list each of the items in the system spec, so this is definitely something we can do in the milestone for the system. However, some of the items are pretty straightforward. You know, for some of the system, it's not like a cutting edge technology because there are many known systems that many companies already use. We all just need to do the same job they have done before. So, you know, like architecture designs, I don't think there's a lot of we need to do. We just need to actually just say, okay, in our system, we need a client server and well, what kind of, you know, architecture design we need, whether we need a tier 1, tier 2, or tier, or n-tiered system, whatever. So we need to discuss all these different options. So it's already a very mature market. So there's nothing you need to do and we need to do much because there's already a lot of different options, you know, we can choose from, you know. And hardware and software specification. So how many servers do we need and how many actually client machines do we need, and what kind of software we need to actually acquire. Interface design. It used to be like a big deal, but now the interface design, you can easily find a consulting company who can actually develop a very nice website with a very reasonable price. You know, the physical process model and also physical data model. Remember that we have a DFD. Okay. Now the physical process model is also called a physical data flow diagram. Okay. So in the data flow diagram, we just talk about what kind of data going to actually transfer from the external entity to the process, from process 1 to process 2. So what kind of data link we need to actually create. Now the physical data, DFD basically need to specify how we're going to actually send this data from this process to the other. And for the data store, what kind of actually technology we're going to use to store this data. So we're going to actually talk about the actual database, you know, we're going to use. Okay, maybe the selection, the choice is very straightforward. Again, it's very straightforward. As I said, this project is not really a cutting edge project. It's just the project that many people have done before. So on data storage design, and then we can talk about the update CRUD matrix and the case repository entries. We're probably going to actually skip this part and just focus on these. Okay. Now, first, the system acquisition strategy. Okay. So we mentioned there are 3 ways we can acquire the system. Custom development. Okay. We build the system from scratch in-house. Okay. And then we purchase software package. So there are many packages, software packages in the market that allows you to you know, you can choose from. So you can install this package, and then many of the packages also provide some kind of customized option. Okay. So a typical example are the software package, like the accounting package. So we can use various different packages actually in the market, like a QuickBook, and so we can use a lot of software package. And these packages also allows the customer to customize them. Okay. For example, you can buy a software, and then when you install the software, during the installation, they may actually pop up some of the options, and they ask you to actually provide the detailed information, say how many employees you're dealing with in the system, and how many actually, what's the volume of your business, how many customers expect to use the system. So you can actually provide your data, and for example, the accounting system, and if you only have like 20 employees, and you're gonna say, okay, we have 20 employees, and then they're gonna customize it to fit the system for like people like from 0 to, not 0, from 1 to 50, and it's basically a small size business. And then if you say, okay, we have 200 employees, and then they have a range like from 51 to like 200 employee or to 500 employees. These are middle size, company. So then you just specify, okay, from 51 to 500. So we have 300 employees or 400 employees. And then if you're really like a big company, you can customize, say, okay, the number of employees is more than 500. So in that case, when you purchase software package, most likely depend on how many actually depending on your customizations, and then they're going to charge you different amount of money. So many of the software package requires to, pay the license fee year after year. So if you purchase this particular software, it's probably not expensive, but you need to pay for the usage. Every year, you need to renew the license for your software package. And now depend on how many employees in your company, then the annual fee could be different. If you say, okay, we only have fewer than 50 employees, the annual fee could be like 2,000. Okay, so you use the package, you can take advantage of the full features of this software, but you need to pay 2,000 per year for the usage. So then, if you actually purchase annual fee, then you will be able to upgrade your systems, particularly for accounting system, because these, like all these tax law changes every year from the federal government. So in that case, if you purchase the package of software, you don't need to worry about this anymore, because the company who sells these package, they're going to actually maintain the system and provide the update for the system. Okay, so these are software package. Okay, definitely you can actually purchase an off-the-shelf, product on the market. Okay. So the custom development, that requires that you have a very strong team, and you have a people who are very good in the design and the development. Okay. Now, if you don't have these people and your company is willing to pay to hire these people, the technical people who can do the job, then you can, that's part of the cost for the system. Okay. And the third approach is called outsourcing. Okay. You outsource the development to third party who might build a system from scratch for us, who also help you select the software in the market. Okay. And customize and install it. So mostly you can find the consulting company. So you basically probably pay some kind of consulting fee, like $25,000. So they're going to work for you to acquire the system, select the software, and customize the software and install the software for you. And you just need to pay, a certain fee, like from like a couple of $100 to, you know, a couple of $1,000. So, and also you can actually outsource, you know, send up the job to these people so they can provide some kind of support. You know, the outsourcing is very, very, you know, popular in most of the IT business, because IT is, you know, the IT actually development is very expensive and also very short-lived. So you need to hire people to keep actually updating the system. You need to hire people to, you know, continue to support your system. You can hire people in-house. You can actually just sign a contract with another company so they can provide the support for you. So these are the 3 different ways for acquiring a new system. Any questions? Okay, now let's talk about the pros and the cons for the different approach. Okay, now custom development, that's the in-house development. Okay, let's first talk about advantage. What's good about a custom development? You know, you're gonna hire people, you're gonna show these people are gonna study the requirements, so they can actually develop the system for you, just for you. So you can customize the system just for your business. Okay. So this is a good thing, because if you purchase the software package, you cannot control it, because most of the off-the-shelf software package, they basically designed to meet the need of general customers. Okay, general customers. You know, it's not just designed for your particular business. So you may actually end up like finding that okay, this package actually fits 80% of our need. However, you know, it does not cover the remaining actually 20%. So that's the problem. And then you need to actually figure out what we're going to do with this, right? But we did use this custom development, so they can actually study each of your business need and develop the system exactly fits your need. And also, the new system built consistently with the existing technology and the standard. Okay. So, and also, once you hire people to build a system, so hopefully you can retain the technical skills and the function knowledges in-house. You know, it's likely that when you hire people to develop the system, and these people are the best people to maintain the system and you know, provide an upgrade to the system, because these are the people who build the system. So they are the people who know the system the best. Okay, the best people to know the system. Okay. Also, you know, allow the team flexibility and the creativity. When you build a system, then you can actually, people can use any technologies they can acquire. They can, you know, it's very flexible. They can use whatever the technology which is available. They can choose from various different options, and so it's a basically a unique solution to create it for strategic advantage. Okay. Now here's the disadvantage. Okay. The custom development requires significant time and effort. Okay. It may fail. It may fail. Okay. Now let me ask you a question. So based on the statisticals, what's the success rate for the IT project? Just give me a wide guess.
It's 33% success.
33%. Okay. You must actually see somewhere, right? Yeah, that's probably like 1/3 of the chance that they're going to be successful. So which basically means that majority of the system, if you develop a system, most of the money going to be spent, but the system may not work. So the success rate is only about 30 extra percent, 33. Yeah. So this is actually the risk. The risk of the project fail is 33%. It's going to actually take significant amount of time. It may add existing backlogs and may require skills we don't have. So in that case, if we want to hire people, and we're probably going to spend a lot of money to acquire the talent to build the system, because chances are these people are in high demand. So if you want to hire them, you're going to pay a lot of money. So basically, it's going to cost more. Now, also, it's kind of trade-off, as I say, because it's going to cost more to build a system, okay? And then once you build the system, that's your system, okay? So you don't have to pay any like a license fee or copyright fees. You own nobody, nothing, you own the system, okay? So one of the example I can tell you is when I work in a company, a telecommunication company. So initially we develop a lot of actually system. We develop a lot of a subsystem. So some of the system actually we actually use by ourselves. We also actually sell them to other company because we own the system. So this is actually different, because when you buy a system or buy a software package, normally when you buy a package, you actually don't buy the software. You just keep that in mind. So it's very expensive to buy and own the software. You don't buy the software. You just buy the license to use the software. Just keep that in mind. So if you actually use the purchase option, when you buy like a QuickBook, you buy off-the-shelf software and install on your server, on your system. So you think you own the system, right? Wrong. You don't own the system. You just own the license to use the system. So the company who sells you the system, they still own the system. So if you actually feel like, oh, this system works fine, 80% meet 80% of my needs. However, I still have another 20% that I need to actually do, but the software I purchased then cannot do it. So in that case, you can either just talk to the vendor who sold you the system, say, can you actually develop, add some features? You can add some features that are on the systems, and so I can pay additional. So that's one option. And the other option is that you purchase the off-the-shelf system, and you can hire another contract saying, can you integrate, develop a software and integrate it to that particular software. So you have to, do additional work to 100% meet your need. So that's the drawback for the actual package software. But a custom development going to hopefully going to solve everything. The only problem is the money. You may actually, initially you can say, okay, these are all 100 requirements. Okay, I achieve each of the requirements. So my software, I hire people and develop the softwares, and they meet each individual requirements for the system. However, you're probably going to spend additional budget. So it's likely the case, every time when people put together a budget, budget estimate. So it end up that you're going to always pay more than the budget estimate. Okay, so that's always the case. One of the example that which actually happens, I think more than 10 years ago, when the city of Boston, they started a new project. It's called Big Dig project. Now, initially, they only estimated that the project going to cost like $10 billion. But I know, trust me, that eventually the city of Boston actually pay more than, I can say, 5 times the original estimate. They actually pay much more, because when they start the project, they pay people that can't, to perform the job, and then dig the area, and they find out, there's lots of different issues and lots of different things happens, because Boston is close to the ocean. So when you dig deep, then you have a lot of different issues, corrosions and all this. So initially it sounds so good, so you can dig, you can actually, because they want to actually build all these new tunnels, so you can actually, connect the whole city with a new technology, with a new pipeline sewage, so they can actually, to completely, replace the old infrastructure with a new infrastructure. The idea is so good, and it's still good, but then when you actually dig the city, and you still want to actually preserve the history of the city. So you don't want to actually knock down all the buildings. So you want to dig underneath the city, but then they find out there's a lot of issues, the corrosions, and there's so many issues with it. So, if things like this could happen if you try to develop in-house, for some of the project, like a non-project, the risk is relatively low. But if you actually try to build a system that no one else can actually already have built, then you may actually have some kind of risk. Always remember this: only 33% actually success rate. Okay, so the IT project are typically a high risk, high return project. Okay, so that's the custom, development. Now let's talk about purchase the software. Okay. So there are many various options you can actually choose from. So there are some company called ASP company, application service providers. They actually supply access to software on pay-as-you-go basis. Okay, so they create the interface of the software, so you can actually use their software. You can purchase some sort of like a license, so then you can use their software. Also, many actually applications today are in the cloud. So when you say purchase the software package, doesn't necessarily mean you go to the store and buy a package of the software like a CD, then you take home and install on your PC. Not necessarily that way. So many times you basically access the website and browse through their product line and select the product and click the download. You can download their product. So typically, most of the company, they allowed people to actually try their product. They gave people like a 30 days, trial license. So you can try the product for 30 days. And if you are satisfied with the product, then you can purchase a product key from them. So then you can activate the software. Okay, so this is actually a very popular way. So ASP is a kind of company. They provide they provide the some kind of software service. So it's actually a provider hosts someone else's software. So they provide a service that everyone can access their service. Okay. And there are many also some other company called SaaS. Okay. So it's a software vendor. They host their own software. Okay. Now, the purchased software has one big advantage. So it's going to considerably save you the money, at least initially, because these software are existing software, and most of time they are proven. They have been used by many users. So we know that this software going to work in certain case. It may or may not work in your case, but most of the time it may work on your case, even though it's not 100% meet your need, but it will work. Okay. Now the purchase software, the big advantage is the cost, at least the initial cost. Okay. For the long-term cost, I really don't know, because if you actually target long-term, maybe the custom development is probably cheaper, because if you actually do the custom development, the problem with custom development is the initial cost is very high, because you're going to hire people to develop the software. You're going to pay people like hire a software developer, programmer to write the code, test the code, and so you're going to actually test this code, and you're going to it takes your money and your time to develop the code. Okay, and once actually the code is working, once you install it, then the follow-up cost may not be that high, because it could be like once you start to use them, you keep these people, they can provide support because they're familiar with the software, so they can provide support. And the longer you use the software, probably the better, because the long-term cost may not be that high. So the long-term cost could be lower than the software purchase approach. Now, as I say, the purchase software may actually initially initial cost may be lower, but the long-term cost may not be that low, because the initial cost is low. It's understandable, because you don't have to hire people to develop the software, to test the software, because you directly purchase the existing software. However, if you don't satisfy with the software, you want to add another feature, then you have to pay these people to add more features. And if the demand is high, and the year after year, they may actually charge you increased license fee for the usage. Okay, that's a possibility. So the cost may actually slowly increase. Okay, the initial cost, for whatever reason, sometimes these vendors, they sell you the software at a very cheap price because they want to attract you. They want to make their software competitive, so they try to they lower their cost, and but once you actually start to use them, installed in your system, then they're probably going to actually ask you to upgrade, add more features. So everything you just add into the existing software is going to cost you money. Okay. Also, there are some other risk because you purchase the software from third party, okay? When you actually install the software, or you purchase the service from third party, like in the cloud service. Now, typically you're gonna sign the agreement, including like a confidential agreement. So that means the company gonna actually house your data, house all the information, the payroll information, the employee information. They're gonna house all your information. So they have to sign the contract with you, including confidentiality, how to actually confidentiality contract, So make sure they don't release any of your information for commercial purpose. Okay, but still, you put your information in the hand of a third party. So who knows, right? Sometimes they're gonna take advantage of this, and they just say, "Oh, I'm not gonna release your information," but who knows? Even Facebook is doing things like this. And the other thing is performance, because they're designed to meet the need of general audience. So you have no idea what's the performance in your system. Okay, it's not customized for your particular server. Okay. So if you decide we don't have the capability of developer in-house, and you decide to purchase a software, then you need to do some of the homework. You need to analyze the vendor as well as the software functionality. Okay. Verify vendor claims with others. So you may actually talk to other customers to see whether they satisfy the service of this particular vendor. Okay. And also, when you sign a contract with the vendor, don't just look at the price. You also need to look at the whole package. Some people just sell you the product very cheap, but there's also a trick inside. Once you purchase and install the software, and then the charges are actually coming. So they actually start to charge you any actually support they actually provide. So you need to actually look at the package. Hopefully you're going to sign the package not just for the software itself, also the support package. So that means they're going to actually support, provide a technical support in certain ways, so that you don't need to worry about any potential problem when you use the software. Don't actually just purchase software. So, oh, I just got the software at a very cheap price. And then you got an issue, and then you call them, and then they say, oh, yeah, we can do the support, but you have to pay such amount of dollars. So we have to send people over here, and you need to pay $200 for a single visit, and then for the follow-up, you have to pay more. So you need to be careful about these purchases software. You must study the contract, and most importantly, you have to check the vendor whether it's a good company or not. Okay. Okay. So you need to assess long-term viability of vendor as an ongoing business. So you have to make sure that once you sign a contract with the company, you're going to view this company as some kind of partner, right? So you don't want to just purchase the software and then that's it, So for example, sometimes a new company actually approach you, that their salespeople just approach you, say, okay, we can sell you the product you actually need. Once you actually submit your request for for quote, so they're going to say, oh, we can provide a very cheap product for you, and we can actually provide such a support. But these are new software company, and you have no idea whether they're going to survive for another years or not, right? So you can purchase a very cheap price, and next year the company is gone. So you cannot get any support. Okay, so you need to find a company, the vendor, which is very decent, and they have been in the business for many years, and a lot of people actually like this company. So in that case, you guarantee that you get a very good support in the long run, not just a short-term price. Okay. So in other cases, that if you actually purchase the product from another company, a small company, and the company was purchased, merged with a big company, and then what happened to the product? So you need to actually think about all the possibilities, and before you actually make a purchase decision. Now here comes the pros and the cons. Number one, it's existing software, so you don't have to develop by yourself. So they are tested and proven product, because they already have like a big customer basis. So they have more than 100 customers. So their product has been used by many customers. Okay, and cost saving, at least initially. Okay, sometimes so that's why the reputation of the company is so important. Sometimes even the company may actually charge you a big money because they have a very good reputation, but it's worthwhile. Some small company, they provide a cheaper price, but they actually use the tactical, like salami tactical. So they actually initially, not expensive, it's cheap. And then when you ask more, actually a little bit more service, they're going to charge you more. And then ask another service, they're going to charge you. So this is actually something you need to consider. And also, so the cost is actually an issue. Initially, at least initially, you're going to save you money. And also, you're going to save you time, because you don't have to hire people to develop the software and test the software. It's already tested and proven. So you may actually still need to do the test on your system, particularly to support your business. But in general, the software has been tested elsewhere. So they will also utilize the vendor's expertise, because these vendors actually sell the product to many companies. They must have a very strong team to support the product. And also, more and more software start to provide you the option for customization. Okay, so you can actually install the software and then customize the software. Now the con, there's always trade-off. Really actually a perfect fit. So you may actually meet 80% of your needs. That's it. That's good. Already good enough. Okay. And the organizational process must adopt the software. So you make sure that once you purchase software, there's an issue of integrated into your existing system. Okay. And also reliance on vendor for maintenance and future enhancement. So every time you need a support update, you need to actually call the vendor. So that's why you have to view this. Once you purchase software, it's not just the software packages that you purchase, and our relationship is that because you provide me the product, I pay the money. That's it. It's not like this. It's more like a partnership. You're eventually seeking for long-term relationship with the vendor. Okay. So sometimes it won't develop an in-house functional or technical skills, because definitely you won't, because you don't. If the company decides to purchase the software, so you're not going to build a talent in that area, right? So you just need to actually, hire some people and train these people how to use the software package. That's it. They know nothing about the software. They don't know anything about the source code of the software, and they just know how to use them. Okay, if there's a demand to add some features, they cannot do it. So you still need to go back and ask the vendor to develop the features for you. Okay, so that's not the same. It's not the same as in custom development. So it may not fit your unique need. Your business is kind of unique with, so these packaged software only actually meet the needs of like 90% of the general actually need of general companies. But for your specific need, they may not develop it because they don't think it's worthwhile. Because if the market is so small in this particular feature, they're not going to develop it. Okay, if they can sell it and 80 or 90% of the customer are satisfied with their feature, and you actually say, I have a special need, can you add the feature in there? And then the vendor find out you are the only company who has that, who needs that feature, but no other company has such a need. And they have to actually tell you that I have to charge you more because that particular feature is a unique feature. So I have to customize the software and to meet your need. So you're going to pay more money for that to meet that requirement. Okay. And there's also an issue of integration. You have to integrate these purchased software packages into your existing system. Okay. So that's a big issue. Okay. Many times it may fail. So it may not work well with your current system. So the system integration is basically is to build assistance by combining packages, existing system, and custom software written for. Sometimes you need to write some software to integrate the packaged software into your existing system. Now, while integrating a system into the existing one is a challenging one, many times the more challenging one is to integrate the data. Okay. So one of the example is, my wife actually work in a company. She's actually working in the accounting system. So they use, in the past, they use a small, custom made the system to store all this information. Okay. So they use it because the company was initially very small. They purchased the software. Actually, they asked the custom build the system. So they actually store that information in their, in their system. And now they later they want to actually upgrade to a new system, migrate to a new system. So they purchase the new system, and they hire some actually consulting company. They hire some consultants. Okay, so this is their older system. Okay, this is a new system. That's older system. Okay, so they hire consultant. Hire consultants to write a script. Okay, to change the format of the older data into the to fit it into the new system. So they write the script. So they hopefully they can automate this data transfer by writing the script. So all the data that fit in the older system can be migrated into the new system. Okay. Now once they actually transfer the system, they create the script, and the system will transfer to the new system. And they find out it's a total mess because they cannot find any information, the employee data information. Simply it's not working out. So it end up, so they have to manually transfer the data. So they open the old system and manually key in the data into the new system. So it took them like 2 years to completely integrate the data into the new system. So the automation, didn't work out. I don't know why, but it didn't work out. So this is actually a very big challenge, So there are many actually consultants. They specialize in system integration, so they have experience, but sometimes for whatever reason you could not find a right person to create this integration. Okay. The last approach is the outsourcing. Okay. So you basically sign a contract with another company, and so these companies have developed many different systems. Okay, so this may save your time and money, and mostly these companies, they have been working in a similar system for many years. Okay, so the outsourcing seems to be a very good option. Okay, now the con for the outsourcing is there's no opportunity to build in-house expertise because you don't hire people to build a system. You actually pay the money to another company to develop the system for you. And then once they develop the system, so you're going to depend on these vendors. So again, just like a purchase the software, if you want to upgrade, you have to go to these vendors and ask them to upgrade the system. And also, sometimes future options are limited. Security, that's another issue. Just like the purchased software. So so just like a purchase of software, you always have some kind of a security issue, right? It's always the risk. Okay, the confidential information, lose the confidential information. Okay. So performance also based on contract terms depend on, once you give these people the business needs, saying, okay, I want to develop a system to meet these requirements, so you can go ahead and do it. So now, depend on the contract. Okay, these people are actually they sign a contract with you to develop the system for you. Okay, these people are not working on your interest. So it's just a contract. They actually basically work on their interest. If you sign a contract with these people, okay, saying here's the business need, you can sign a contract. You're going to create a system to meet this. It's just like a checklist. You have 20 requirements, and then they create a system to meet your needs, and they actually going to create a system at the lowest cost they can. Okay, so basically, as far as they can actually satisfy your needs, but if they can save the money, they're gonna use whatever the ways to save the cost. Okay, which means if you say, okay, these are requirements, okay, and if you in a contract, for example, you actually say, actually, when we work on a system, we always want the system to have a very good performance, so it's going to react very fast. However, if in your contract you did not mention that term, so they probably going to ignore this. They say, oh, Okay, so if I create a system to meet their need, and option A, I purchase the hardware, so then it can actually do the job in 2 seconds, and the other one can do the job in 1 second. But the good performance system going to cost more, so they're going to pick the second one, the one with low performance, because you still pay the same amount of money to them, but because they take advantage of these, for whatever reason, maybe it's you miss that particular important things in your contract, but they can take advantage of this because they can provide you the system without violating any contract. So they're just actually, just do their job to meet your need. That's it. They're not going to actually think like on your behalf. So say, oh, I think your system should have a good performance. No, they don't think about this. They think their own way. So to meet the need at the minimal cost. Same thing actually happens in the general contract when you sign a contract to build a house. Okay, be careful, because if you end up that you can build a house with your parents, with your relatives, you're probably going to purchase the best quality product and the wood and everything. You can pick up very good quality material to build a house. But you sign a contract, as far as they meet the contract, that they're going to use as the low quality product, as far as that they still meet your need, satisfy the contract, so they're going to actually meet your need at the lowest cost, so that's something you need to be very careful. Okay, I think I apologize. I initially thought I could give you some like a 15 minutes so you can actually have some kind of team meeting, but and now we're running out of time. So okay, so I think that's pretty much all for today. So we're almost done with these with this particular actually module, but we still have a couple of more slides. We're going to talk about these the matrix that you help us to select the system. But okay, so we're going to actually talk about this in the next class. Okay, so do you have any questions?
Well, on the topic of the milestone, in the milestone, oh, 1 second, I opened the wrong document. It said something about a written. Let me find this.
You talk about milestone 5 or 6?
Milestone 5.
Oh, okay. So yeah, milestone 5 is actually it's not a new stuff. I just want you to correct the diagrams that you did in last in last semester. So I want you to fix all these things.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So this is actually it's kind of redundant because I just check because last semester we are almost running out of time. So that's why I want to spend more time, give you some more time to what kind of data flow diagrams, and also the next one the entity relationship diagram. I think these two are very important. You have to correct all the possible syntax errors. So you can actually go back and check your data flow diagram in last semester and just fix all the syntax errors. The one I actually gave you, I talk about, I just posted on the Blackboard. This is actually basically my view of the system, so you can actually take a look at this and you can combine your idea. So I just want to correct all the errors, provide a very nice data flow diagram. We don't want to actually submit a data flow diagram that does not meet, has a syntax error, like So external entity talk to external entity. That's definitely not the correct one. No. Okay. So I extended due date to today, but if you can, if you submit like you know, I hope you can submit today. So if you actually have a better idea, so you can improve it, and you are always welcome to add more, because I think I can allows you to submit multiple times. I think did I do that? So you can always, before I just grade it, you can always submit multiple times. Yeah, I actually give you multiple times to submit your work. The bottom line is I want you to submit a correct data flow diagrams. So before we actually move forward to the next one. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Let me